Tonight on The Record, the Pope touches down in America. Pope Francis kicking off his historic 6-day tour. We are live along the Pope's route, but right now Carly Fiorina is trying to capitalize on her debate success. The former Hewlett-Packard CEO and now top-tier presidential candidate is laying out her foreign policy plan. Fiorina explained how she would deal with ISIS, Iran, and Vladimir Putin. Senior national correspondent John Roberts is live in Charleston. John.
Good evening to you, Greta. What Carly Fiorina was outlining today at the Citadel here in Charleston was a very muscular U.S. foreign policy. And she was sharply critical of the Obama administration for being weak in dealing with bad actors like Iran, China, and Vladimir Putin. She said in response to Putin's actions in Ukraine and establishing a forward operating base in Syria, she would rebuild the Sixth Fleet, which is based in Europe, renew the missile defense program in Poland, and conduct joint military exercises right on Putin's doorstep. On China, she said she would retaliate for alleged cyber hacking and intellectual property theft and would not tolerate China building military outposts in the South China Sea. She said she would also cancel the state visit of Chinese President Xi. On Iran, she said on day one of her presidency, she would call the Ayatollah, said she didn't know if he would take her call or not, but said she would try, and tell him, hey, you know that nuclear deal? It's off. Here's the new deal. Until and unless you open every nuclear facility for inspection, you will not be able to move any money around the world. Fiorina is a big proponent of rebuilding the U.S. military and supporting our allies. In an exclusive interview on Mackinac Island over the weekend, I gave a hypothetical question to her. I said, if you're elected president in 2020, after your first term, what would America's military and strategic posture look like? Here's what she said.
It will take time to rebuild our military, but we have to be well on our way. We have to have invested in those brigades and battalions and Navy ships. We have to invest in equipping our allies, whether it's the Kurds or the South Koreans or the Japanese or the Australians. So the world will know the United States is leading. We're going to stand with our allies. We're going to confront our adversary.
And to that end, Fiorina says she would, in fact, arm the Kurds. She would send more weapons to Jordan, and that the United States, under her administration, would lead a coalition of Arab allies to defeat ISIS once and for all. Greta?
John, thank you. And today's event by Carly Fiorina is an early test of her international chops. Fiorina telling cadets at the Citadel Military Academy how she would keep our nation safe.
I think President Obama's fundamental belief is that the world is better when we are one among many nations. And he said this in a variety of ways. Well, America thinks it's exceptional the way Greeks think they're exceptional. We need to join the family of nations. He misunderstands fundamentally. The United States of America is a unique nation in all the world and in all of human history. We are the only nation in human history that does not conquer territory but liberates people. For heaven's sakes, we keep terrorists in air-conditioned facilities. We ensure that all of their rights are met. Why? Because we're Americans. And we are the only nation that has been founded on the idea that the individual, that each life is precious. That makes us not one among many nations. That makes us a unique nation. Christians are being driven from the Middle East.
Yes, they are.
The Christian populations in various places in the Middle East are being driven out. And this administration is silent. This is about the defense of the security of our nation and the defense of the character of our nation. They are inextricably linked now.
So how does Carly Fiorina's plan stack up? Former presidential candidate Herman Cain goes on the record. Good evening, sir.
Hello, Greta.
And what are your thoughts, sir, of Carly Fiorina's foreign policy plan, which I should add is pretty much what she laid out at her debate about a week ago?
I like it. I like it. I like it. She's talking about the United States of America being a leader nation instead of a reactive nation and instead of being a follow nation. Her statements are strong, clear, and definitive. And I got to tell you, I'm impressed with these philosophical statements that she has laid out relative to foreign policy. I like it.
What do you make of her strategy? She lays out what her strategy is, and you compare it sort of with Donald Trump, who says he doesn't want to tip off the enemy, so to speak. He doesn't want to tell him what he's going to do. He thinks that's a bad strategy. I mean, she's made very plain what she intends to do. So tell me, which is the better approach politically, and which is the better approach for the American people?
In this case, Carly has the better approach, because she's basically sending a very clear message to our enemies. She's not saying how many ships. She's not saying how many missile defense systems. She's not saying how many exercises we are going to conduct. She's simply saying we are going to do this, like it or not. And she doesn't care, because she wants to get America back where it belongs, and that is respected in the world for two things that only other countries, even our enemies, understand: our economic strength and our military strength. That's all they understand. And she makes statements that will put us back at that level.
Is there a difference between looking strong and looking sort of belligerent and offending people in a non-productive way?
There probably is, but I don't think she has crossed that line of looking strong versus belligerent. She's just being clear. And the reason some people may say that she seems a little belligerent, which I don't think she is because we have such a weak president, such an indecisive president, such an unclear, lack of strategy administration. She may seem that way. I like what she's saying about how she's going to approach foreign policy, rebuilding our military, and establishing the United States of America back to its exceptional status in the world. I love it.
All right. Is her foreign policy fundamentally different from any of the other GOP candidates? I mean, I can compare and contrast with the Democratic candidates, but what about her GOP opponents? Are they saying anything different?
Some of them are not saying anything different. Some of them are saying the same thing. They're just using different words. I know that Mike Huckabee, for example, Marco Rubio, I believe, has also stated what we need to be relative to the world. We need to be a leadership nation, not a fellowship nation. So some of the candidates, yes, but I can't delineate all of them, but I happen to believe that most of the Republican candidates feel exactly the same way. They just articulate it a little differently.
So why do you like what she says? You say, I like it, I like it, I like it. Why do you like it more than, like you say, if she says much of what Governor Huckabee and Senator Rubio say? What's different about Carly Fiorina to you?
Maybe it's because what she's saying is connecting with what I said 4 years ago, which is basically a repeat of an extension of Reagan's philosophy of peace through strength. Every one of the statements she made represented peace through strength. And you know I'm a big supporter of the Reagan philosophy, like a lot of candidates, but she made it clear. And she made it clear in a way that I believe, Greta, that is connecting with the American people. More people just need to hear her speak and to hear this aspect of what she would do in regards to foreign policy.
Would you endorse her?
I would, but I haven't yet. I have picked 6 candidates that I consider to be the ones that I would prefer. She is one of the ones I picked even before she shot up in the polls. She's one of my picked 6.
All right, let me ask you one quick question. Who's your first pick right now in your pick of 6? Who's number 1
I don't have a first pick. I have 6, and they're all on the same plane because, as you know, Greta, a lot can happen as this campaign continues to unfold. And so far, all of my 6 are still in the running.
All right, we'll keep checking back with you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greta.